You very much regretted that you didn't get to direct. You wanted to be the guy that directed most of the Friends episodes, but you weren't able to commit to that early on in the show. You did the pilot, and you did a number of those shows.
I did 15 of them.
You did 15 of them. Did you know right away when they got that group together that...
I knew. I have, on all the sitcoms I do, on all the pilots I do, I have a test audience 3 days before we shoot the show. I have a single camera, and that helps me if there's a set that the whole audience can't see. The camera will go down there and just shoot a master so the audience can see it. And on that show, it was through the roof. That single camera audience. They loved those characters. They loved them. And, I did the first, I think, 3 or 4. And, there's a story about me taking the cast to Vegas because I knew there was something special about this show. That happened on Will and Grace. That happened on Cheers. The only show that happened on that wasn't a success was a show called The Class, which was written by David Crane and Jeffrey Clarick. David Crane was one of the writers on Friends, one of the geniuses on Friends. And that had a great audience, but it never made it. But you can sense in doing the shows whether the audience reacts to it. And I knew then and there how good that show was. And I often, you talked about casting before and how lucky you are. That show was done in '94, and I had agreed to do 4 pilots already. And they sent me, Martin and David sent me that script. And I said to my agent, wow, I have to do this show. It was, in fact, 95% of the script that was sent to me ended up on the air. So I said, I have to do it. So it was the last pilot I did in 1994, and those 6 people were available. So that'll tell you how lucky you have to be.
Yeah.
Jen had another show that we were in second position. She was doing a show called Muddling Through on CBS, which somehow they got her out of, and Matt Perry had done another pilot, and that pilot didn't go. But those 6 people...
And you think about if something had been just a little different, that chemistry wouldn't have been there.
No.
And these are now iconic TV characters. But you're right. People don't realize how much of... I think this occasionally when you find out that Humphrey Bogart was like the 9th choice to be in Casablanca, and he was not thought of as, he was not a leading man, but that's how it worked. He was available, and a bunch of the other people they wanted were not available, and so that's how we get, Humphrey Bogart as Rick in Casablanca, and it's the same thing with these television shows. It's a million things have to go wrong for it to go right.
Yeah, it was amazing. It's so I often, people, how did you find? They think of them now as stars, and how did you get them to agree to do Friends? But they weren't. They were, Lisa was on a Cheers. She was on a Cheers. She played an actor in Woody. Woody Harrelson was in a community theater, and she was the actress with Woody. And so, it's just, they were unknown. Nobody knew these people. And all of a sudden, bang. That's the kind of show I like. I like a show where you bring a cast of people nobody's ever seen before.
Right.
Because then the audience feels like they've created a hit by liking these people, and they've created stars. So that's because you bring these people, you've never seen them before, so you have the sense of surprise when they, oh my God, that person's funny. With somebody like Bill Cosby who's real funny, but you cut to Cosby, something funny's going to come out of his mouth. When you cut to these 6 on Cheers, you cut to the people on Friends. I'm sorry, you cut 6 on Friends, and you cut to the people on Cheers or Taxi. You have no history with them.
Right. So Will and Grace, I didn't know those performers. Yeah.
No. So they open their mouths and, oh my God.
I also think there's something when the people watching it it's the people that made them stars.
Right.
They weren't brought in as stars. Right. So, we're saying, no, those people are stars. I like these guys, they're it. And that's much more magical than, this person's been around in show business for 30 years as a legend, and now we're going to give them their own show.
Right. So that's almost all the shows I've ever done have. I tend not to want to work if you got a star in the show. It just, because you have to serve the star, and it's just, it throws off stuff for me. I like the unknowns and having an audience discover the unknowns.
Well, this has been a huge, as I said at the beginning, looking forward to this. This is a treat for me, a huge treat, because I love your work. I love television. You're so smart about comedy. And I do recommend people, this book is fantastic. And you can read this book if you're in theater, read this book. If you're interested in television, read this book. If you're interested in comedy writing, read this book. Comedy performing, read this book. It's just, and read it at different time for each reason.
Buy a different copy.
But yeah, buy different copies.
Yeah.
No, it really is. And on a personal note, I'll tell you, when I got started with my late night show and was going through a really difficult period and getting written off all the time and constantly reading that I was going to be canceled, I ended up, I'd say about a year or two into the show, it was very early on, and I ran into you someplace, and you were very encouraging to me and said some nice things to me, and it meant the world to me. It was a huge deal. And I remember thinking, well, if James Burrows thinks I'm doing an okay job, then I think that I'm just going to live off that for about a year or 30. So thank you so much for coming on the show. And thank you for, I think you have provided me with maybe 85,000 laughs in my life. So
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. This was great. Thank you.
Thank you.